Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Manjiri Narkani back today with another amazing episode. So, today we are going to talk about thyroid once again. We're doing a three-part series on thyroid, and I'm super excited. I'm trying the same thing today. So, I'm going live on Instagram right here, and I'm going live on Facebook as well as YouTube at the same time. And in part one, we have covered about, thyroid and what are some symptoms you see, when your thyroid is out of balance. So what kind of symptoms will you see as, having a lowered thyroid function? What kind of symptoms you see having a heightened thyroid function, right? So that's what we discussed in the past video. So if you haven't yet checked that video out, go back to, part one. It's day 64 of 100 days of Ayurveda. So go back to it, take a look at it, and then come back to this one, right? So it'll help you understand a lot more, right? So today we'll talk about quite a few interesting things. We'll talk about different topics. I can see Arogya Veda here, so a big hi to you. Hello Uttamji, hello Ushaji. I'm going to see if I can find a few more people. So with the setting that I have, I can't always see, how many people are signing up because I have all my computers and everything right here. But thank you all for watching. Again, this is Dr. Manjiri Narkani, Ayurvedic MD, registered holistic nutritionist, and we're talking about thyroid. If you have any questions at any point of time, right, just post it in the comment section, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I cannot give you one-on-one advice because of legal reasons as well as professional reasons, without knowing what's going on with you. So I can 100% answer all your general questions on thyroid or thyroid conditions, but I cannot give one-on-one advice without having a you know um, having you as my client or working together, right? Because I don't want to create issues for you, right? So hi Iti, nice to see you. Hi Johanna, nice to see you. So thanks for tuning in live. Today we're going to talk about thyroid once again, right? So why thyroid? Like, why we see a thyroid epidemic? Like, almost in my practice, I see a lot of women who have normal numbers of TSH because they're checking TSH, right? And as I mentioned in video one, that TSH can be within the normal range, right? So we have a couple of mechanisms happening, right? So your hypothalamus in the brain is going to secrete the one marker which is going to tell your pituitary to stimulate thyroid stimulating hormone, right? So TRH goes to TSH. The TSH from the pituitary is going to tell your thyroid to stimulate thyroid hormones, right? And when your thyroid hormones are normal in your blood, they give back a signal saying that, okay, we are fine. And then the TSH stays within those normal ranges, right? But if your thyroid hormones are not produced, then your TSH keeps increasing, keeps telling your thyroid, okay, secrete, secrete, secrete. So it starts increasing. So that's how um, things start happening. But when we talk about thyroid as a gland, it is an extremely sensitive gland, right? And there are a lot of complex mechanisms. So it's not just about your TSH being right or your T3 being right or T4 being right, because your thyroid receptors are found on all your cells, right? So all your body cells have thyroid receptors. And sometimes, though you're taking the dosage, right, because of high inflammation, these hormones cannot get into your cells, right? So that is one cause. A lot of people ask me that, okay, Manjiri, I'm taking this dose, I've been put on this dose by my medical doctor, and um, my blood tests are perfect, right? My blood tests are always good, but I don't feel any good, right? So this is the number one question that I get, and that is because you could be inflamed, right? And the other thing that can happen is, you're taking enough dose to kind of for it to show up in the blood test, normalize your blood reports. But what also starts happening is certain dietary factors that you do, certain deficiencies that you have, right, are making it like counteract active for whatever dose you're taking. So you're taking this dose, which is just going on to balance certain things, but you're creating more inflammation. You're having a lot more deficiencies, so the thyroid is not going to function well. And when we talk about different, doshas in Ayurveda, this is one gland that's extremely sensitive, right? When we talk about even the chakras, right, we talk about the throat chakra, and this is an extremely sensitive part, which is gland which is affected by different things, right? So while it is also one hormone which is found throughout your body, or the receptors are found on throughout your body for thyroid hormone, and there are different mechanisms taking place. So if you have an overloaded liver, the conversion of T4 to T3 is not going to happen, right? So there are different complex mechanisms, and that's why people, when they ask me about what should I be doing, you have to assess, like I have to assess you as a person. I have to figure out what's really going on, because there are multiple causes again, and that is how Ayurveda is practiced, right? So Ayurveda is not about take this gugulu or take this kanchana for all thyroid conditions, but because it may not work unless you change your diet and lifestyle, and unless you find the root cause. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So in the last session, I was talking about symptoms of having a hyperactive thyroid or a hypoactive thyroid, right? So a hyperactive thyroid is where your thyroid gland is getting overstimulated. It's producing a lot more hormones, and those hormones are creating a lot of symptoms, that you start losing weight, you develop a lot of fatigue, you develop a lot of palpitations, right? So that's hyper function of your thyroid gland or thyroid hormones. When we talk about hypoaction, that means that your thyroid is not functioning well, right? So it's becoming sluggish, it's not acting, the hormones are not sufficient. It could be that you're lowered in hormones, or you have a lot of inflammation, right? And the third thing that's common as disorder is what we talk about autoimmunity, right? So autoimmune is your own cells destroying your own cells, right? So auto is literally your own, and immunity, so there is certain component from your body that starts destroying your gland or stimulating your gland. And if that creates hypothyroidism, if it interferes with your thyroid gland, right, there is something known as Hashimoto's, which is also very common, where the autoimmune component is going to create an issue with hypothyroidism, where your thyroid doesn't function well. And in Graves' disease, it's going to stimulate the autoimmune component itself, creates antibodies which are going to stimulate to produce a lot of thyroid hormones, right? So that makes it hyper. So these are all different conditions. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about causative factors, right? Before I get into all different conditions in details, I'm going to see if I have enough time, or I'll stick to the causative factors, because knowing the root cause is extremely, extremely, extremely important, right? So going back to thyroid, the one thing that if you start doing, right, which will really help you feel a lot more balanced, is to get in touch with your body, right? And start understanding your own symptoms, start getting tuned with your own body. See if you feel hot or cold in your body. A lot of the times people are so disconnected with their physical bodies that they have no idea what's going on, right? And that's the first thing should do. You should start developing a relationship with your body, right? So if you're getting random aches, try to see where it is. If your hands are getting really cold all the time, try to observe that. If you're getting palpitations, try to figure that out, that how often or at what time are you getting the palpitations, right? And see if you are feeling generally heavy, if you are feeling tired, if you are feeling sluggish, right? If you have any signs of inflammation as well. So inflammation is again something that's been thrown around a lot in today's world, and nobody knows, what that inflammation means. Inflammation in the context of, medicine, or when we talk about acute inflammation, we talk about excess heat or redness, loss of function, so rubor, calor, dollar, and all that. But when it comes to chronic inflammation, sometimes you could just feel not right, right? That itself could be a symptom. You could be like, oh, I just don't feel optimal, I just don't feel 100%. So that itself could be one of the causes, or one of the symptoms that you feel, is that you feel tired and lethargic, and you feel really heavy, you feel bogged down, right? And you have other conditions. And usually with thyroid too, I've seen a lot of different conditions associated. Gut health is usually impaired, right? So I see a lot of parallels, or I see a lot of IBS happening, or diagnosis happening with IBS. Oh, I have irritable bowel syndrome, is what a lot of people complain, and then suddenly they start developing thyroid issues. So this is something to keep in mind as well. And again, you have to look at the liver function, right? You have to figure out if your liver is functioning well or not. And again, liver function is something that is depleted in today's world for everyone, right? Everybody is walking today with overloaded livers. Your liver clears everything out, right? So anything that goes via your mouth, any medications, any excess hormones in the body that the body itself secretes, anything that you don't require, any toxins that come in your body via organisms or something, your liver is going to work, get rid of those, right? But if you have an overloaded liver, your liver is not going to be able to convert the T4 into T3, which is the active form. So last week, we were talking on Monday, we were talking about thyroid hormones. There's T4, there's T3, there are T2 and T1 as well. I won't get more into it, but the main one that you have is, T4 is found everywhere. It's deposited in the body, right? So whenever it's needed, it can be converted into T3, and that's for that conversion to take place, you have to have a good functioning liver, right? So when women complain of hot flashes, right? When women complain of getting really angry and irritable and frustrated, and maybe for men too, right? Because thyroid conditions are also common nowadays in men. It's not just about the women, but these are signs. If you're getting snappy, if you're feeling bitchy, if you're feeling extremely annoyed, if you feel like just killing someone, or with everything that's happening around you, if you're getting extremely sensitive, right? If you're getting extremely worked up for no reason, your liver could be overloaded, right? And everything has its physical signs, biochemical signs that you can see, in your biochemistry, and everything also has its emotional signs. So one of the main ones for liver is anger, frustration, irritation, right? And that is one of the missing pieces. So when we look at causes of hypothyroidism, right, one of the main things could be your liver is not functioning well, right? So in spite of you're trying to eat healthy, in spite of you're trying to take a lot of supplements, in spite of you're taking protein shakes, and this is extremely common that I see. I see people trying to take the easier route out. I see a lot of people trying to just put everything in one shake, right? And this is like a protein shake that's giving you your proteins, and it is giving you your herbs and like vitamins and whatever is packed in. But you could not, sometimes those also shakes are packed with a lot of artificial flavors and chemicals, and to make it taste good, and synthetic supplements, right? So it might actually create an overload in your body, right? So that is something to keep in mind. So the first thing, when we look at the causative factors, overloaded liver today is one of the most common causes, right? And if your liver is not functioning well, it can also create that inflammation that I was mentioning before, right? So the number one cause that I see in my practice, when it comes to menopause, when it comes to other conditions, even it comes to digestion, is a bad functioning liver functioning not good. And alcohol is something that is going to impact your liver. So a lot of people I've had conversations with during COVID, have taken up to occasional drinking or social drinking, or like isolation drinking, not even social drinking. We're not socializing. So just to cope up with what's going on around us. But that is not a good coping mechanism, because you're overloading your liver, right? And you're also creating that excess chronic low grade inflammation, which tells you. And this is why when you get a hit from your intuition that something's not right with my body, something's not functioning well, or I'm fatigued, I'm tired, I just don't feel optimal, that itself could indicate that you have some kind of inflammation happening, there's something going on. You need to start paying a lot more attention, right? So we talked about inflammation a little bit. So this inflammation, okay, going to inflammation, inflammation can come from a lot of things, right? Inflammation can be created in your body just by eating something that's not compatible with you. If you're eating a food that's not compatible with you, it's going to increase the stress on your body. Every time you eat something that your digestive fire cannot handle, right? So there is a common saying that what you don't digest ends up digesting you, right? So if you're not digesting the food, if you're unable to digest it, if it's not compatible with you, you will increase the inflammation in your body, right? And a lot of the times when I look at certain prakrutis, like we talk about vata dosh, pitta dosh, kapha dosh, and then the vata prakriti, pitta prakriti, and kapha prakriti, right? So people having pitta, right, as their constitution or a part of constitution can also be prone to excess inflammation, like redness, and chronic low-grade inflammation can happen to anyone. And one of the most common factors when we talk about digestive inflammation is or undigested food. So if you're eating beyond your capacity, if you're eating for sensory pleasures, or just taste buds, if you're eating without paying attention, no matter how good food you eat, it is not going to be digested well and convert into body tissues, and it's going to end up inflaming you, right? Because it creates a product known as ama, which is a toxic product to your body and all your cells. And this product is not getting digested, right? Because it's not getting digested or broken down, it cannot be absorbed or assimilated in your body, and it cannot even be excreted. So it keeps circulating throughout your body, and your body doesn't know what to do with it, right? So it's going to create situations of stress in the body, right? Your adrenals are going to go out of balance, your other hormones are going to go out of balance, your thyroid is going to go out of balance as well. So making sure that your digestion again is functioning well, making sure your liver is functioning well, are kind of the cornerstones to any health regimen, right? Or any health condition. And that is why in Ayurveda we talk about roga sarve api mandyagno, right? So whenever your digestive fire starts weakening, you are prone to different conditions, right? And going to the third piece, right? So we talked about inflammation, we talked about liver, we talked about ama, which is the third piece. The fourth piece is nutrient deficiencies. So a lot of you know that, okay, I need some iodine, or iodine, however you like to call it. So I need some iodine in my diet to be able to synthesize thyroid hormones, right? So one thing is your diet itself could be lacking in iodine. You also need lots of different factors for thyroid function. So when we talk about thyroid hormones, the T3, T4, the 4 and the 3 are how many molecules of this iodine or iodine is attached to each thyroid like cell, or chemical, or the hormone itself, sorry. So every time, the T4 indicates there are 4 molecules of iodine there. The T3 indicates there are 3 molecules. So if you are lacking, if your body is not having enough iodine because there's not enough in the soil, right? And iodized salt that a lot of people use is not easily absorbable. Like the iodine from that is not absorbable easily to your body. So one of the best things, is having certain foods, seafood is good, or kelp or nori or certain sea vegetables are really good and rich sources of iodine. We're going to discuss that in part 3, right? So this is something I'm going to leave for part 3, that what foods are rich in what nutrients, and I'm going to talk all about it. But this is something to pay attention to. So if you're lacking in nutrients first, so the food itself doesn't have enough nutrients, and then you're not digesting it well, so you're not even picking up whatever is in there, right? And the same with iron. So most people may not have an idea, but even having a good amounts of iron is extremely important for the conversion of T4 to T3, right? And also, your hemoglobin is the main molecule which carries oxygen throughout the body, and this oxygenation is also required for thyroid function, right? The other thing, when we talk about nutrients, is magnesium, right? So, magnesium is the anti stress mineral, and magnesium is also required for production of T4 and conversion of T4 to T3, right? And every time you're stressed, every time you're shaky, right? Every time you're like feeling ungrounded or anxious, your magnesium gets depleted from your body, right? So already you're not having enough magnesium in the soil, you're not having enough magnesium in the foods because you don't eat leafy vegetables, right? Because leafy vegetables are boring, burgers are so very interesting is what people see. But when you eat a lot of green leafy vegetables, like how we have our blood, plant blood known as chlorophyll has magnesium as the core molecule, right? And this magnesium is going to do a lot of functions in your body, including support your thyroid, right? But if you don't have enough leafy greens, or if you have raw greens which you're not even digesting, then you're not going to get that magnesium as well. So this is how deficiencies can occur. So there are two parts to the deficiencies in today's world. One is that there's not enough in the soil itself. So the tomatoes have way less lycopene than a few years ago, and that's why growing your own foods is going to be much better if you are gardening like I am. That's pretty amazing because that will help you um, get the best quality food, right? And because you're going to pick things when they are ripe, you're not going to pick them unripe and then artificially ripen them, right? So that is how they'll be full of nutrients. But if you're not eating whole foods, if you're not eating real foods, if you're eating all the foods laden with chemicals, those chemicals can impact your thyroid as well. And because these foods are rich in calories but they lack in nutrients, right, your body is not going to feel nourished, right? Again, zinc, selenium, there are several ingredients required to create those thyroid hormones, right? And when we talk about drinking water as well, there's fluoride in your toothpaste, there's fluoride in your water, or which it could be harmful to you as well and harmful to the thyroid function. So always make sure you're getting cleaner water, or you are having some kind of like filtered water, right? Or some good filter. So you're getting clean water as clean as possible. Because there are definite studies done that, elevated fluoride levels have impacted, the T3, T4 hormones as well. Right. So these are a few things I wanted to kind of discuss today and help you understand. So any questions so far? I can see Gifties here, I can see Aparna's here, and Rejuvenation Therapies is also here, and Dr. Ashok is here. So hi everyone. So these are a few things, when we talk about thyroid disorders, the most commonly people talk about, oh, I'm hypothyroid, right? Or I'm hyperthyroid, or I have this autoimmune condition. But the question is not what you have, the question is why you have it, right? And there are multiple factors. So we talked about digestion, we talked about inflammation. Now the other part that everybody's discovering today is the importance of your gut, right? So gut is your second brain. There are studies that even having good amounts of serotonin and dopamine is essential for thyroid hormone production and normal thyroid hormones in your body. In ancient Ayurveda, we have already discussed a lot about gut, and your gut is also the seat of Vata dosh, right? So when we talk about this Vata dosh, when you have there are 5 different kinds of vayus or types of Vata dosh in the body, and they all support each other. So when we talk about the Vata or Apan, which is situated in your gut region, right? So that's the one that's going to expel, all the feces, and that's going to make sure your menstruation's fine. That's going to release the egg from your ovum, right? And that's also going to support. So when it functions well, all your other vatas can stay in balance, right? If your prana is functioning well, then it's going to support other vatas as well. But if one gets out of balance, everything starts going out of balance. And again, this thyroid is extremely sensitive, right? And it's extremely sensitive to any kind of vata dosh imbalances. So if you are following a lifestyle where you're not sleeping well at night or in time, you're not sleeping by 10 o'clock, you're sitting on your computer and you're browsing until midnight, right? What you've done is you're creating vata as well as pitta aggravation, right? So when you are past that 10 o'clock mark, which is when the pitta cycle starts, because you're awake, your body is not going to process things well. Your body is not going to, start detoxification process, because everything, when you go to bed, when you sleep, in that deep sleep, your body starts doing its work, right? Because it wants to do that uninterrupted. But till the time, you're pretty conscious, you're watching TV, you're getting excited about something, your body is not going to start detoxifying. And that is also something that's seen, that if you are staying up late at night, you are going to get vata aggravation, right? And that's going to again impact your thyroid. If you eat a lot of raw foods, right? So raw food diets are something that are appreciated in the Western world, but not really appreciated in the Ayurvedic world. So if you're having a lot of raw foods, I've seen so many people add kale to their smoothies. And there are certain vegetables like cruciferous vegetables which are common to cause gas or increase the vata dosha in your body. So kale, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, these are all cruciferous vegetables which can create like a little bit gas in your body, right? Because they do aggravate or they do increase vata dosha in your body, right? So if you're having excess kale, in the form of a smoothie, which is again cold, you're adding some fruits, you're adding some vegetables. So these cruciferous vegetables also have something known as goitro, or are known as, they inhibit your thyroid function. So they work as goitrogens, right? So they're going to not let your thyroid function extremely well. So that's one of the other causes, right? That's something you have to keep in mind. So when it comes to thyroid, there is no quick fix, right? So unfortunately for everybody who's watching this, I know I work with a lot of people who have had symptoms for years and sometimes decades. They've been diagnosed in the 20s and now they're in their 40s and they're still on medications but having those symptoms. But you can, help yourself. You can start feeling better, right? You can start healing your thyroid rather than just putting a band-aid on it, right? And but it does take time and it requires a lot of dietary and lifestyle changes. So gut bacteria, going back to your digestive bacteria or your probiotics that people are taking, some of them are not even live, they're not even active. So you have to focus on different aspects for thyroid function. It's not one thing that's going to change everything for you. So that's something to remember. So cruciferous vegetables, now similar to cruciferous vegetables, excess soy, right? All this obsession with tofu, right? And tempeh, miso, fermented soy is easier to digest. But if you're having a lot of tofu or a lot of heavy processed soy, that's going to impact your thyroid gland as well, right? So these are some things that we all do in diet, or we all have occasionally, or we think, they're marketed as health foods. Kale has reached the shelves of everything. There are kale chips, like everything is enriched with kale nowadays, but raw kale is not going to help you, right? So every time, try to see how you feel whenever you're eating the food, and that is the best indicator of whether it's working for you or not, right? And remember, like always, in today's world, like generally there is so much imbalance in the vat dosh for everyone, and that is why you're distracted, that is why you don't have focus, right? So that is why you jump from one thing to the other. That is why you're feeling scattered and overwhelmed and tired and exhausted, and you have issues with circulation, right? So to be able to do that, you also need to get into a good routine, right? Or a daily routine. So these are a few things you can try. These are a few things that can create your thyroid issues, right? And autoimmune is something that's even complex. So what I have seen in my practice is when we look at autoimmune conditions, usually there are a lot of food sensitivities. Usually it's something in your diet. You're eating something because you think it's good for you, but that itself could create a reaction in your body. That itself is triggering your immune system. So that's something you have to take care of, right? So try to write down all the foods, try to see what you're reacting to. And again, stress is, every time you get stressed, there is, that vata response where you're shaky, right? So that's also something to pay attention to. So I know I'm talking about a lot of things when it comes to thyroid, but there's not one quick fix. I've been doing a few calls. I have sent out emails, or I've also sent out, messages that if you want to book your one-on-one with me, you can book a free 15-minute call, and we can talk about how, your thyroid issues are created, or how I can help you get back on track, right? Because when I talk about these multiple causes, you could have either one or two, or maybe all of them or more of them, right? So you have to figure out what itself is creating that imbalance in your body, and what you need to bring back to balance. Because till that time, you could take all the supplements, you could take lots of iodine, you could take um, different thyroid hormones, or bioidentical hormones, or natural hormones, or different things, but you're not seeing the benefit because you're not taking care of that inflammation, right? Or you're not taking care of that deficiency. You're not working to normalize your digestion, or you're not taking care of that overloaded liver, right? Or the gut dysbiosis that you have. So once you figure out, or once we figure out what's going on with you, it's very easy to shift that, and then start feeling much better, right? So any questions so far? Any questions so far? I know everybody's pretty quiet today. Hi, Wendy. Nice to see you. Oh. Any questions? No? Okay. That's good. Yeah, so if you have any questions about, thyroid, what are some of the causes? That's what we discussed today. If you want to look at the symptoms, you can always go back to um, the symptoms, right? So that's in video 1. Hi, Jyoti, nice to see you. So vitamin D sources sometimes in future. I will do a separate video on vitamin D. Uttamji, I'll do a separate one for sure. That's a very good suggestion. So I'll do a video on vitamin D, and vitamin D is again important for thyroid, like everything else. Also vitamin D receptors are found all over your body, just like thyroid receptors, right? And they're finding vitamin D to almost function like a hormone. So that's what we'll be discussing, but I'll do a separate video on it because there's a lot to talk about. There are some plant-based sources of vitamin D. We can talk about that. Most of them are animal-based sources, but we'll definitely talk about vitamin D separately. Oh, thank you, Wendy. Hi, Goldie. Nice to see you. Should be taking vitamin C as well as vitamin D. So are you asking specifically for thyroid? See, you should be taking things that you cannot, or you're deficient in, right? So or if you're looking for a certain function. So that's a very general answer, but D I recommend for everyone. And the reason is that we don't have enough, coming through our diets. We're not as exposed to the outside sun, right? And as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, that start going outside like earlier in the morning, when the sun is out, but it's not super hot, or the sun's rays aren't extremely sharp. So you will end up absorbing, and you have to be outside at least for 20 minutes and have your hands and feet uncovered, right, for absorption. If it's in the winter time, you're walking outside but you're completely covered, your body's not going to make that vitamin D, right? Vitamin C can be taken for antioxidant purposes, Vitamin C is like a really good antioxidant, but getting it through natural sources is a better option. So in Ayurveda, things like amla berry boast a lot of vitamin C, right? Your citrus fruits are also going to have vitamin C, or camu berries are extremely popular for having vitamin C, right? So those are the things, you can try. So try getting it through foods. And if not, then you can supplement, right? So in the next session, I will be talking about thyroid specifically and how to heal and how to balance it, right? So I'll be talking about a few things I spoke today about the causative factors and how to eliminate those, or how to cook those, and how to use those. So you don't have to completely get off kale, but you can cook kale, right? And you can have soy a certain way. So that's what I'll be discussing in the part 3 of the video. But the one, it's called amla berry, and you can get the powder, or there's also like the camu berry. Right? So Kamusi, we have it at Blue Water Nutrition Flow. So you can always, you're most welcome to visit the store or call us. We also have the Kamu berries, or we have the Amla berries in the form of powder. Yeah. So definitely, they're both like really sour, right? But Amla berry is also cooling to the body, so it's more suitable to this heat that we're going to, that we're facing right now. So again, for part 3, we will be talking about different ways to balance the thyroid, right? Again, I'm going to talk about the generalized idea, but for those, if you are having, issues with your thyroid gland, if you have been suffering for a long time, if you are trying everything and your thyroid numbers are perfect, right? They're always within the range, but you're still not feeling the best. You still feel like, okay, there's something going on with my thyroid. I don't feel that my symptoms have, subsided. I'm still feeling pretty cold. I'm still not feeling the best. So if that's the case, book your 15-minute free consultation. What we can do is we can just go over, you know, um, what's going on with you, what you have tried, and how I can help you. And this 15-minute consultation is just like, you don't have to commit to anything. You just have to give me 15 minutes. You can ask me any questions and we go from there. So there's not much, commitment, but that's one thing that's extremely common, right? So thyroid is something that's, going out of balance because of our lifestyles too, right? And the good thing with the whole COVID situation is at least people have taken time to change a few things about themselves, right? People have taken time to get more in touch with themselves and really, take a hard look at their life and change certain behaviors and patterns, which will help us, in the near future itself. So Aparna saying, she doesn't have a thyroid problem, but she's interested in knowing more. Yeah, so you can always go back to the first video where I talk about the symptoms. I'll be discussing a lot about balancing your thyroid gland, right? So even if you try those strategies, you're always going to maintain the balance if it's functioning well, right? So you don't throw it out of balance. So you can also, come back for day 3. We will be doing the day 3 of thyroid series on Friday at 8 o'clock. So we'll be doing that. And this Saturday, hello Swati, nice to see you. So this Saturday, I have the amazing Dr. Swati Maske, and she's going to be interviewed, and we're going to talk about summer skincare, right? So I've seen a lot of people out soaking in the sun, but sometimes, the harmful rays of the sun can also impact you. So while you need a vitamin D, you have to also make sure you're staying safe, right? So we're going to talk about summer skincare. We're going to talk about different skin types from an Ayurvedic perspective, and how to make, your skin glow and function really well. And skin health is something that's extremely important because it's also one of your biggest organs, right? So it's also one of the biggest, whatever you put on your skin, you're going to end up absorbing it and it's going to enter your body. So that's why, we just don't talk about skin in terms of aesthetics, but also in terms of your health, right? So if you haven't already join my group, there's this amazing group that I have, which, called Ayurveda for Health and Happiness. And it's a very like nice community with some really amazing people, and I would love for you to have join it and be there. So there are lots of good things coming up. I'm going to be hosting a lot more interviews as well. Lots of exciting stuff happening. So I would love to see you there. So thanks again. It's 8:41. I am going to head out. Thanks all for watching this live, and I will see you all back on Friday at 8 p.m. and then on Saturday at 11 a.m. And then next week, I'll try to think of some, like I haven't thought the topics for the next week, but I'll try to make it interesting as well. But I'll be doing a vitamin series for sure. I'll be doing a general, vitamins, what are the best ways to take it, what not to take it, what you need, what you don't need. So I'll be talking about a general vitamin series, maybe sometime later after Ayurveda, like after I complete this Ayurvedic sessions, or I might even include it, like I don't know from now. So thanks again for watching this live. Thanks Aparna for joining me live, and I will see you all soon. Have a fantastic night. Bye for now.